7 of them, like chief generals over all of the angelic forces, but they are at a level that is unlike anything else. Michael would be equal with Satan. Satan is not God. He does not have the power of God. He does not have the abilities of God. He is not omnipotent. He is not omniscient. He is not omnipresent. He is definitely not omnibenevolent. Those are unique things given to God and God alone. Satan is a created being. His name was Lucifer. He was the most beautiful of the created beings, but he fell because he wanted the power of God. And Michael would be the equivalent to be able to fight. So once Michael came, he was able to get this angel through. And now the angel is finally able to get to Daniel. So it says, Michael, one of the chief princes, came to help me, for I have been left alone there with the kings of Persia. Now I've come to make you understand what will happen to your people in the latter days. For the vision refers to many days yet to come. Now, this vision is going to be very similar to the visions we saw before. We saw visions before where he had a picture of the coming of this Antichrist or Antiochus, but it's also a future vision for the latter days. The latter days means the last days. So we have a parallel and symbolism here of, again, Antiochus and what the Antichrist is going to look like. So he says this vision is going to be for the latter days. When he had spoken such words to me, I turned my face toward the ground and I became speechless. Suddenly, like one having the likeness of the sons of men touched my lips. Then I opened my mouth and spoke, saying to him who stood before me, my Lord, because of the vision, my sorrows have overwhelmed me, and I have retained no strength. For how can this servant of my Lord talk with you, my Lord? As for me, no strength remains in me, nor is any breath left in me. Then again, the one having the likeness of a man touched me and strengthened me. And he said, O man, greatly beloved, fear not. Peace be with you. Be strong. Yes, be strong. So when he spoke to me, I was strengthened and said, let my Lord speak, for you have strengthened me. Now, he's going to finish it up with this. Then he said, Daniel, do you know why I've come to you? And now I must return to fight with the prince of Persia. And when I have gone forth, indeed, the prince of Greece will come. But I will tell you what is noted in the scripture of truth. No one upholds me against these except Michael, your prince. So he is relaying that there are influences in the spiritual realm over all of this area. Persia, over Greece, and your prince, the prince over Israel, Michael, he fights for you. He is on your side, and no one is going to prevail against him. Now, he is going to give the vision that he sees, and we're going to go through the first part of chapter 11 pretty quick, and then we're going to get to the part that's really going to matter to us. So let me give you the breakdown of chapter 11. So 11 is going to be broken down like this. 1 through 20 is really dealing with historical things in the past for us, but in the future for Daniel. And that is going to be this Greek Empire, the Persian Empire, the Greek Empire, and how that's going to play out. He's going to talk to him about that. And then he's going to talk about, in 21 through 35, something that is called the vile person. Well, who is the vile person? Well, it's two people. It's Antiochus Epiphanes that we talked about a few weeks ago, and it's the coming Antichrist. All in the same. And then 36 through 45, he is going to shift gears and he is going to talk about the Antichrist in particular. So the vile person, Antiochus, and then he's going to talk about the vile person, the Antichrist. And that's how it's going to break down chapter 11. So let's read through this quickly because I don't want to spend a lot of time on the history of chapter 11. I'll just touch on a few things as we go through it. It says this. So the vision is given, and the angel is imparting this vision to Daniel. And he says to Daniel, I'm going to tell you the truth. There are going to be 3 more kings that will arise in Persia. and the fourth shall be far richer than them all. By the strength through his riches, he shall rise up against the realm of Greece. So there's going to be 3 more kings in Persia, and then the fourth king of Persia will rise up. Now, the fourth king of Persia, his name was Xerxes. Have you heard that name before? Ever seen some of the movies? I think the movie 300 was, I think Xerxes was the Persian leader of that against the Greeks who were fighting against that. So Xerxes became the ruler, the final one of Persia. Xerxes was rich. He was very wealthy. He wanted to wipe out all of Israel, but he also wanted to wipe out the Greek Empire. This king that arose would now face the Greek Empire. And here's how he says that it's going to be. Then a mighty king shall arise, who shall rule with great dominion, and do according to his will. And when he is arisen, his kingdom shall be broken up and divided toward the 4 winds of heaven, but not among his posterity, nor according to his dominion for with which he ruled, for his kingdom shall be uprooted, even for others besides these. Now, what is he saying? Xerxes is the final Persian one. Then there will be a leader that will rise up against them, Alexander. And Alexander will die, and his kingdom will be divided into 4. And it won't be 4 based upon his progeny. It will be 4 just based upon his generals. And that's how it will be divided up. These 4 kingdoms, it's going to be split to the 4 winds of heaven. So again, he was saying, this is future for you, Daniel, but this, again, is past for us of things that happened. He said then, here's what's going to happen. He said, also the king of the south is going to become strong. That's one of these 4 kings. It was split up into 4 different groups and 4 different people. One was the king of the south. He's going to be strong, as well as one of his princes. He shall gain power over him and have dominion. His dominion shall be a great dominion. At the end of some years, he is going to join forces with the king of the north. He is going to join forces with him, and he's going to make an agreement. But she shall not retain the power of her authority, and neither he nor his authority shall stand. She's going to be given up with those who brought her. And so basically there's a marriage that is happening, and it's going to bind these 2 kingdoms, but they are going to fight against each other. There's going to be a branch from one of her roots that will arise in his place. They're going to come with an army. They're going to enter in the fortress of the north. They're going to deal with them and prevail. Then they're going to carry the gods away from Egypt. All of these things are happening in these 4 different kingdoms that are going on. Let me skip through this because it's not part of what we need to know. You can go back and read this, but it's all of the struggles and the strife that is happening of all of these different kingdoms that came out of Alexander. Let's get to what we need to know for our purposes and our study. So let me get all the way to verse 21. So verse 21, here's what he's going to say. He says, in this guy's palace, in the palace of one of these, and we don't have to go back and look at all of that, there will arise, and he says it this way, there will arise a vile person. Well, what is this vile person? Well, this vile person is someone whom they will not give the honor of royalty, but he shall come in peaceably and seize the kingdom by intrigue. Remember how Antiochus got his position? He was not born into this. His brother was the ruler. Antiochus was kind of like the uncle. Let me put it this way. Have you seen the movie The Lion King? You ever seen The Lion King? You remember what happened in The Lion King? Who was the big ruler? Mufasa. And who was his son? Simba. And Mufasa was killed by his brother. Remember what his brother's name was? Scar. You know this better than you know the Bible. That's what I'm afraid of. He was killed by Scar. And the son left in exile. He went out with Timon and Pumbaa. And they sang a song. You remember the song that they sang? Anybody remember the song? Hakuna Matata. Come on, people. Know your trivia. Hakuna Matata. What a wonderful phrase, right? Hakuna Matata. What was it? Ain't no passing phrase. Whatever. I don't know. It's been a while since my kids were that young. Anyway, so he goes off into exile. Well, that's the story of Antiochus. Antiochus' scar. He takes power by killing his brother, and he sends his nephew into Rome into exile where he is imprisoned. Antiochus was known as the vile person because Antiochus rose to power and he presented an idea of peace. And as he presented the idea of peace with Israel, all of a sudden, with a force of a flood, they shall be swept away from before him and be broken. And also the prince of the covenant. So the agreement was gone, and he just came in and desecrated the place, killing numerous Jews to the point that the Jewish people rose up, and it was the revolt, the Maccabean revolt. Well, here's what happens. This person in Daniel chapter 8 is the same exact person he's talking about in Daniel 11, and this person is a picture of what the coming Antichrist will be. Everything that he does is the picture of what the Antichrist will do. So what is he going to do? He's going to have a peace agreement with Israel. He's going to come in all gentle. He's going to make peace reign throughout the region. And as he does and makes this, he will break the covenant, and he will break the people, and he will do the vilest of things. It says that he shall disperse among them the plunder, the spoil, the riches, and he will devise his plans against the strongholds, but only for a time. He's going to stir up power and his courage against the king of the south with a great army. The king of the south, he's going to go to battle with them too. And all of these things will be bent upon evil. All of these people will be bent upon evil. Then in the Holy Land, he is going to come against them. While returning to his land with great riches, his heart shall be moved against the holy covenant. So he shall do damage and return to his own land. And at the appointed time, he shall return and go toward the south. It's not going to be like the former or the latter. For all of this is going to take place, is what he is saying and prophesying. All right, let's get to where it's going to come to us now. 36. And this is where he's going to switch gears and saying, this is the future. And this is the future for mankind. Because in the future of mankind, this vile person of Antiochus, there will be one like him on steroids that will come in and do the same kind of damage, but tenfold what happened then. Because Daniel's going to say, what happened then was nothing compared to what's going to come. It will be the worst ever. That's why Jeremiah says it is the day of Jacob's trouble. There has been nothing like it. It's why Jesus warns and says there has been nothing ever like this. So let's look and see what it says about this willful king who now we are going to shift gears to the future fulfillment. Let's look at what it says. Then the king, the vile person, here's what he's going to do. This future Antichrist will do according to his own will. He will exalt and magnify himself above every god. He shall speak blasphemies against the God of gods, and shall prosper till the wrath has been accomplished. For what has been determined shall be done. He shall regard neither the God of his fathers, nor the desire of women, nor regard any God, for he shall exalt himself above them all. All of this is going to be the heart of this future Antichrist. What are the things that he says? He says he will exalt himself. He will magnify himself. Think of what Hitler was like. Hitler was exalting himself, rose out of nothing, exalting himself, magnifying himself above everything. This Antichrist will be like that. This Antichrist will be like Antiochus, but this Antichrist will be tenfold worse than either of those two. magnifying himself, speaking blasphemies, prospering all the way until the wrath, that is God's wrath, comes down. So this Antichrist, in that 7-year period, it will start at the 3.5-year mark. When does the 7-year period start? When Israel has peace. So watch for that. We have all of the other signs too leading up to that, but in particular, Israel is at peace. 3.5 years go by, then that peace agreement is broken. And this Antichrist unleashes his battle upon Israel until the wrath of God is poured out. The wrath of God ends what he was doing. And look at what it says about him. Now, all of this has been determined. It's all going to be done. And then he says, this one will have neither the God, he shall regard neither the God of his fathers, nor the desire of women. Well, what does that possibly mean? Theologians are completely, all over the board when it comes to what does that mean exactly. The God of his fathers. Well, you could trace all of this back to, some theories have been this, that the Antichrist is Jewish, that he rises out of Jewish culture, and that he is Jewish because he says he won't regard the God of his fathers. Others, I would probably fall in this camp, would trace that all the way back to not the God of his fathers, but going all the way back to the God of the forefather, Abraham, where everything divided. Do you remember the story of Abraham? That in Abraham he had 2 sons? And Abraham's sons were the son of the flesh, Ishmael, and the son of the promise, Isaac. Isaac had 2 sons as well. Remember his 2 sons? Esau, the firstborn, and Jacob. Jacob he had regard for and loved. He didn't for Esau. Do you know that Ishmael and Esau could trace their lineage all the way back to Abraham, and who was Abraham's God? It was the God Yahweh. But Ishmael and Esau have formed what are now known as the Arab races. The Arab nations come out of that. And so he says, this Antichrist will have no regard for the God of his fathers. So my particular thinking is not that he's coming out he's a Jewish person. Maybe, I could be wrong. I mean, this is just theory, don't know. But I think it's probably someone coming out of the Arab nations, which I've always felt like, who could trace their lineage back to Ishmael, back to Esau, back to Abraham, their father, and the God of their fathers, the God of Abraham. And so he says, this person will have no regard for that. And this person will have no desire of women. There's been many speculations about that as well. Is this somebody who's homosexual, who has no desire for women? Is it somebody who has no time for women because I have more things that I'm trying to accomplish? Don't know. But that's what it says he is. Doesn't follow God, exalts himself, blasphemes, prospers, has no desire for women, no regard for any God, for he shall exalt himself above them all. He will be in his own mind a God. Now, Antiochus Epiphanes was that. He called himself, his name was Antiochus. He gave himself the title of Epiphanes, which was God. It was a God. So he filled that, but he was a foreshadowing of what's to come. So he says, this is what will happen. Now look, in their place, he shall honor a God of fortresses. That is power, that is influence, that is military might. And a God which his fathers did not know, he shall honor with gold and silver. with precious stones and pleasant things. Thus he shall act against the strongest fortresses with a foreign god, which he shall acknowledge and advance its glory, and he shall cause them to rule over many and divide the land for gain. At the time of the end, the king of the south, there's going to be a resistance that will rise. Don't feel like everybody in the world just bows down to this, because there will be a resistance that will rise against this empire that happens. It's often been thought that, well, this is going to be one world order, one world government. And there will be some oneness that happens, but this is a military that is not operating without consequences around the world. There is a resistance that rise. The king of the north shall come against him with a whirlwind, with chariots, with horsemen, with many ships. Who's the king of the north? It could be the European Union. It could be the Russian Empire that comes against them. Those things happen. They shall overwhelm and pass through. He shall also enter the glorious land. That's Israel. Many countries shall be overthrown, but they will escape from his hand. Edom, Moab, the prominent people of Ammon. He shall stretch out his hand against the countries. Over the land of Egypt shall not escape. He's going to have power over the treasures of gold and silver, over all the precious things of Egypt. Also the Libyans, the Ethiopians shall follow at his heels. But news from the east and the north shall trouble him. Therefore, he's going to go out with great flurry to destroy and annihilate many. Where Israel is, and I just want you to picture this on the map. So Israel, this little postage stamp country, and you have the Middle East, you have Iran, and all of the Middle East, let's just assume that's the empire. What could possibly trouble this group to the east of them? You know what's to the east of them? China. China's got the largest military force that you can think of, and it's over that way. What could possibly be to the north? Russia. And so they try to form alliances, but they're not on board with the things that they're doing. They may want the plunder, they may hate Israel, but they don't want this person to take it for themselves. And so something happens that troubles them to the north and to the east, and they think, uh-oh, I don't know what's going to happen. Let's annihilate as many as we possibly can. It's the attitude of, let's take out as many people. If I'm going down, I'm taking out 1,000 people with me. That kind of an attitude. I'm going down, everybody's going down. We're going to, he says here, we will, with great fury, destroy and annihilate many. And he shall plant the tents of his palace between the seas and the glorious holy mountain. Yet it should come to his end, and no one will help him. So the Antichrist doesn't just operate forever. He has enemies coming from the east, coming from the north. They're rising up. And he says he takes his tents and he plants them between the mountain and between the sea. Do you know what is between kind of the mountain? If you picture Israel, kind of that picture, the sea over here, do you know what is located there? Well, really, the key is probably Tel Aviv. And Tel Aviv is military base, airstrip. Where is he positioning his tents? Probably in that area, positioning himself to mount some kind of a defense. And so he says, these are the things that you're going to begin to see. Antichrist, breaking a covenant, having enemies coming against him, annihilating and taking out as many as he possibly can before they take him down, positioning himself as a strategic stronghold in that country. Daniel chapter 12. So he's going to wrap it up, and we're going to wrap up Daniel. So he says this, chapter 12, verse 1, the everlasting life and the everlasting shame. This is why we know it's the future, because it is the time of trouble destined for Israel that Jesus says the world has never seen anything like it. Daniel is going to say the world has never seen anything like it. Well, if the world has seen something like it, that means it's in the past, because we've all seen it. He says, you've not seen anything like this, which tells us then it's in the future. And he's warning about the things that are in the future. These are the latter days things. And he says this, the future trouble of Israel. At that time, Michael, who was Michael? He was the great chief prince. He was one of, we think, the 7 chief princes, the chief angels of God, according to the book of Revelation, chapter 8, verse 2. At that time, Michael shall stand up. Who is Michael? He is the great prince who stands watch over Israel, over the sons of your people. Michael is the one who is allowing and protecting Israel. You ever wonder about the miraculous case of Israel? They are bombarded. They are being attacked on every front all the time. How in the world can they continue to stand? Well, Michael watches over them, stands over them, keeps them protected. Michael will stand up. Who is Michael? He is the great prince who stands watch over Israel. However, there shall be a time of trouble, such as never was since there was a nation, even to that time. That's how we know it's the future. Because he warns and says, you've never seen anything like it. You know what happened in Germany? That's child's play compared to what's going to happen here. What happened a year ago? That's nothing compared to what's going to happen here. What happened by the Roman Empire when they destroyed the nation of Israel in 70 AD? It's nothing compared to what's going to happen here. What happened during the time of Antiochus Epiphanes coming into Israel? That's nothing compared to what's going to happen here. He says, there will be a time of trouble such as never was since there was a nation, even to that time. And at that time, your people will be delivered, everyone who is found written in the book. What is the book? It is the book of life, the Lamb's book of life. If their names are written in the Lamb's book of life, that doesn't mean all Israel is saved. It means the ones whose names are written in the Lamb's book of life. If your name is written in the Lamb's book of life, that pertains to you. Whatever is going on in the world, if your name is in the Lamb's book of life, that pertains to you. How do you know if it is? If you've accepted Jesus as Savior, and you have turned your heart to him, and you've asked for forgiveness from him, your name is written in the Lamb's book of life. If you've trusted in him as the only one who can save, that's where your name is. At the time of the greatest trouble, when there is a time of trouble as such has never been seen in the world, the ones who will be delivered are the names, those whose names are written in the Lamb's book of life. Many of those who have died sleep in the dust of the earth shall awake. Some to everlasting life, some to shame and everlasting contempt. He's referring to the great white throne judgment. The judgment that will happen, that the world will be gathered before the throne of God, and we will stand there and either be accepted or rejected. Either your name has been written and you have been welcomed in, or you have been rejected. And you will stand there and I will stand there, and it says, if we don't know him, according to Romans 1, you will have no excuse. There will be no excuse when you stand before God. You can't say, well, I didn't know. I had no clue. I thought it was all make-believe. We will stand there before him and face the judgment. Some into, look what he says, some into everlasting life. That's the good news. Life, eternal, forever. Some to shame and not temporary, everlasting contempt. some into life forever, some into hell forever. And he says that's what happens in this time of trouble. Those who are wise shall shine like the brightness of the firmament. Those who turn away, and those who turn many to righteousness like the stars forever and ever. Do you know that that's our marching orders? We are to shine in a dark world. We are to be wise. We are to turn many people to God, pointing to him, allowing him to change them, to turn them to righteousness. Here's how he ends it. But you, Daniel, here's what I want you to do now. Shut up the words, seal the book, until the time of the end. So again, here's his reference. He's not saying, oh, it's going to happen, just in a couple hundred years. He says, no, you seal it until the time of the end. What's going to happen at the time of the end? Well, here's a good sign of the time of the end. Many shall run to and fro, and knowledge shall increase. What does that mean? Many shall run to and fro. Well, there's two different explanations of that. It could be many are running to and fro because the world is opened up. There's no more isolation in small little areas. Now the world is opened up and you could travel as much as you possibly could. Knowledge will increase, but also the running to and fro is the running toward knowledge and wanting to continue to grow that knowledge. So life is very much what he describes like it is for us today. That's why Daniel starts to make sense, because it's starting to interact with where we are. And we can see the things, the signs, the things that are happening. So many are going to run to and fro, seal up the book until the end. At the time of the end, many will run to and fro. Knowledge will increase. Then I, Daniel, looked, and there stood two others on this river, one on this riverbank, the other on the other riverbank. One said to the man clothed in linen, who was above the waters of the river, how long shall the fulfillment of these wonders be? So how long is this actually going to take, is what he's saying. How long until all of this will be fulfilled? Then I heard the man clothed in linen who was above the waters of the river, when he held up his right hand and his left hand to heaven, and he swore by him who lives forever, that it will be for a time, times, and half a time. Have we talked about that? I think we have. A few times I think we have talked about that. Well, that's a year, 2 years, and half a year. How long is this going to last? He says, well, it's going to be a 3.5 year period. This 3.5 years, right here, 3.5 years, this is the time of trouble. That's the great time. It is not a 7-year period of trouble continuously. It's the final 3.5 years for Israel. This is the day of trouble. He says it's going to last for a times, and half a time. And when the power of the holy people has been completely shattered, all of these things will be finished. Remember when I started with 70 weeks, and the word for 490 is tamim, and the word means complete, perfect, finished, forgiven. At the end of all of this, when this is accomplished, what happens? All of these things will be finished, but it will not be finished until the holy people have been completely shattered. That's a scary thought, that the holy people are completely shattered. Well, let me finish it out. One more slide. Although I heard, Daniel says, I didn't understand. Then I said, my Lord, what shall be the end of these things? He said, go your way, Daniel. For the words are closed up. It's sealed. It's sealed until the time of the end. Many shall be purified, made white, refined, but the wicked shall do wickedly, and none of the wicked shall understand, but the wise shall understand. And from the time that the daily sacrifice is taken away, and the abomination of desolation is set up, there shall be 1,290 days. Well, let's just quickly, as we end this, just talk about what this means. Daniel, the words are done. But I'll give you one more clue, Daniel. Many are going to be purified, many made white, many refined. Wicked are going to do wickedly. The wicked won't understand, but the righteous will. From the time that the daily sacrifice is taken away, one of the things that we know happens is that in this there is a rebuilt temple. Do you know that the Israelites are desperately desiring to rebuild the temple? They are finding that the temple site may not be what they actually thought or realized that the original site was. They actually think that it's a different location than what they have always thought it was. It could open up the possibility of a temple being rebuilt soon. The temple tools, the utensils, the ornaments are already set aside. The red heifers are already set aside for the consecration of the temple. It's ready to go. And they see it as ready to go. When the temple practices start again, they will start the sacrifice again. So somehow, in the midst of restarting this, the Antichrist will put an end to temple sacrifice. When the Antichrist puts an end to temple sacrifice, then the abomination of desolation is set up. That's that 3.5-year mark. So somewhere here, either here, somewhere here, I don't know where exactly it's going to be, but he will put an end to it. And from that moment to the end, he says, is 1,290 days. So if we are here and we see this, and we see the sacrifices, and we see this rise of this empire, and we see the sacrifices start the clock. Because he says it will be 1,290 days. Now, the 1,290 days, he's going to say something different next. Blessed is he who waits and comes to the 1,335 days. So now he's going to say, he said 1,290 days. Now he says 1,325 days. And we already know that 3.5 years is how much? 1,260, right? Is that right? I think it is. 1,260? You're shaking your head. You have no idea. You just have no idea. So we have 3 different dates. What do those dates mean? Well, here's the speculation. What's that?
What did you say?
3.5 years. 300. It's got to be 360-day period. That's what it always goes in biblical terms. So that's okay. We don't have to worry about it. So what is the relationship? Well, here's a theory. The end of the 1,260 days could be when Jesus returns. End of the 12,090 days could be Jesus' government is officially installed. The end of the 1,335 days, I think I put 1335, are when maybe the nations are judged. Basically, nobody knows. It's all a guess. That's what it is. It's all trying to figure out, well, what does this exactly mean? Jesus is going to give more and more indication. So this is just the baseline now to understand what Jesus is going to say in Matthew chapter 24. And that's what we are going to talk about next time. So let's close it out with one more final verse. But Daniel, you go your way till the end, for you shall rest. You're done, Daniel. Your time is done. And you will arise to your inheritance at the end of your days. So, Daniel, you have fulfilled everything that we needed you to do. We gave you these visions, Daniel, and I wanted you to spread them out. I wanted you to share them, which Daniel did. Daniel gave the indication. He said, the angel says, now seal it up. Seal it up, and it will be unsealed at the time when knowledge is increased and people are going to and fro. It will be unsealed, and it will make sense to the people who are living in that day. So, Daniel, take your rest. You're done. You're able to now die, and your inheritance will be something given to you. You've done your work. So, with that, Matthew chapter 24 is where we're going to pick it up next time. And I love getting into Matthew. So I love Ezekiel, love Daniel, love getting into Matthew, and love getting into Revelation. So we are going to keep marching forward as we get through the rest of this. So we've got Daniel done, Ezekiel, what we wanted to cover, done. There's more pieces in the Old Testament, but we're just going to touch on them here and there, but really getting into the meat of it now with the book of Matthew. All right, we're going to pray and we're going to close. Thank you, Lord, for your word. Thank you that it was given for our benefit and edification. Help us to understand what you have given us. Help us, Lord, to see the things that are happening around us from your perspective. Lord, you have set all of this in motion. You have fulfilled prophecy after prophecy, and you will continue to do so. Help us to have faith, to trust in you, but most importantly, Lord, to make sure that our names are written in your Lamb's book of life, that we have trusted in you with all of our heart, all of our mind, all of our soul, and all of our strength, that we have said yes to you, Jesus, and are committed to following you. Thank you. We praise you in Jesus' name. Amen. Thanks. See you hopefully next week as we get into Matthew.